Hello and welcome to Challenge Solutions. My name is Caitlyn, and in this video I'll be showing you how to set up a brand new MacBook using Voiceover. Voiceover is a screen reader that can be used out of the box with any Apple device. That means even if you're totally blind like me, you can set up a new Apple device completely independently. For reference, in the future I'll be setting up a 2020 M1 MacBook Pro, and before we get started I'm just going to quickly touch on some terminology that I'll be using during the setup process. Whenever I say VO or VO keys, that means press Control and Option. Those are the VoiceOver or VO keys. So for basically every keystroke related to VoiceOver, you'll need to hold down Control and Option and then press the rest of the keystroke. So when I say VO right arrow, that means hold down Control Option and press the right arrow. In just a second, we're going to transition to a recording of the setup process where you'll be able to hear VoiceOver speaking. Unfortunately, if you're sighted and trying to follow along with a video, you will not actually be able to see what's happening on the screen during the setup process because I do not have a way of recording the screen while I'm setting up the new MacBook. So I do apologize for that, but the entire point of this video is to show you that you don't need sight to set up a new MacBook and you can do it all auditorily. So hopefully you will still be able to follow along with my explanations and VoiceOver's auditory feedback. If you do have questions, please leave those in the comments and I will do my best to give you a better explanation or link you to other resources that will show you the screen during the setup process. So with that being said, let's get started. Alright guys, once again I sincerely apologize for the potentially terrible quality of this recording. My air conditioner is now running, so we may have some fan noise on top of the generally terrible recording setup I'm currently working with. Sorry about that. Hopefully this will be good enough to see the light of day. If you're watching this, obviously it was. Anyway, I have extracted the MacBook from its box and I've got it connected to the charger because it's been sitting in the box a while and I'm not sure how much battery it has. I have not opened the lid yet, so we're gonna do that together and I will take you through the entire VoiceOver setup process. So I'm gonna open this and it should make its startup noise, and I think VoiceOver still comes on and asks if you want to use VoiceOver for setup, so I'm just gonna open it and wait a second, and if it doesn't come on, I will toggle it.
English is the main language. Press the return key.
Okay, so it did just need a few more minutes to turn on. You guys heard the Samantha voice say to press enter to choose English as the language for setup, so I'm going to press enter because I only speak English.
This contains a built-in screen reader called Voiceover. If you know how to use Voiceover, press the command key while you press Touch ID 3 times at the right end of the touch bar. To learn how to use Voiceover to set up your Mac, press the escape key.
Alright, so it's saying if we know how to use VoiceOver to press the command key and triple click Touch ID. So I'm going to do that because I do know how to use VoiceOver.
Application. Alert. System dialog. VoiceOver would like to use Bluetooth. Used for portable preference. VoiceOver would like to use Bluetooth. You are currently on a text element.
Alright, so it's telling me that VoiceOver would like to use Bluetooth. I'm not really sure when it's wanting to use Bluetooth right now. I'm going to use the VoiceOver keys, which are Control and Option. Those are the two keys in the middle of the four keys to the left of the spacebar. So the second and third key from the left on the bottom row. So I'm going to hold those down and press the right arrow, and let's see what it wants.
Used for portable preference. You are currently on a text element.
We'll do it again.
Don't allow button. You are currently on a button. To click this button, press Control, Option, Space.
And you can hear it's telling you how to interact with the different elements on the screen. So if you're brand new to VoiceOver, this is really easy to learn how to use and go through the setup process. I'm going to VO right arrow again and allow it. I'm not sure exactly what it's wanting right this second, but it doesn't hurt to allow it to use Bluetooth.
OK, button. You are currently on a button. To click this button, press Control, Option, Space.
Okay, so I'm going to Control Option Space or VO Space on the OK button. Alright, so it didn't give us any feedback, but I'm assuming it took it. I'm going to VO right arrow again, and we should be in the next step of the setup process.
Continue button. You are currently on a button. Continue button.
Alright, so it took us to the next step of the setup process, but it did not land on the top of the screen, so it didn't tell us what the next step is. I'm going to go ahead and press Function, Control, Option, left arrow to go to the top of this screen, and it will tell us what the next step is.
Select your country or region. You are currently on a text element.
Alright, so it wants us to select our country or region, and I just pressed the control key to stop it from spouting all of the hints associated with that element. You can always shut VoiceOver up by pressing the control key. I'm going to go ahead and VO right arrow.
Table. Row 1 of 257. United States. Selected. You are currently on a table. To enter this table, press Control, Option, Shift, down arrow.
We are now on a table, and this table contains a list of all the countries you could possibly select. It's got the United States selected, so I'm not going to enter this table, but if you did need to enter this table, you would need to interact with it. To interact with things, you use Shift, Control, Option, down arrow. So generally speaking, the rule of thumb is if it's a table, a sidebar, or a group, and sometimes sliders, you have to interact with them by using Shift, Control, Option, down arrow. And then you can move through the list of things that is contained within that element. If you need to uninteract with something, it's Shift, Control, Option, up arrow. And you can also swipe left with 2 fingers to uninteract and right with 2 fingers to interact on your trackpad if you've got your trackpad commander on, which I'm actually going to turn on right now because I like using the trackpad to swipe through things like this. So to turn your trackpad commander on, it's Control, Option, hold those down, and then rotate 2 fingers on your trackpad. If you're familiar with VoiceOver on iOS, it's basically the rotor gesture on your trackpad, but you're gonna basically like draw part of a circle with 2 fingers on your trackpad while you're holding down Control and Option. Hopefully that explanation made sense. If you need a video demonstration, let me know in the comments and I'll be happy to post one. I'm gonna do that now. Hold down Control, Option, rotate 2 fingers.
Trackpad commander on.
And you heard it say trackpad commander on. Now, instead of using Control and Option, I can swipe with 1 finger on the trackpad to move through things, and it'll make this process a little bit faster. Of course, if you prefer buttons, you can keep using Control, Option, and the arrows. So I'm going to flick right on the trackpad.
Back button. You are currently on a button. To click.
I tapped the trackpad with 2 fingers to stop VoiceOver from talking. You can also do the same thing with Control, like I said. I'm going to swipe to the OK button or the next button, whichever it is, and then double tap it to go to the next step because it's already got the United States selected.
Continue button. Accessibility. You are currently on a text.
Alright, so I tapped Continue, and it took us to the next step. I'm going to swipe right to see what's in this accessibility step.
Accessibility features adapt your Mac to your individual needs. You can turn them on now to help you finish setting up, and further customize them later in system preferences. See what's available in each of the categories below. You are currently on a text.
As you can see, right at the very beginning of the setup process, Apple shows you all of the accessibility options that you could potentially need to make the setup process easier. So I'm going to go ahead and swipe through these so you can see what all the options are.
Vision button. You are currently on a button.
So we've got Vision. I'm going to double tap that.
Vision. You are closing menu. Vision.
And now if we swipe right.
VoiceOver. VoiceOver provides spoken and braille descriptions of items on the computer screen and provides control of the computer through the use of the keyboard.
So you can see it gives us a nice description of VoiceOver, which obviously we already have running because I'm blind and I couldn't have got this far without it, but I'm going to keep swiping.
VoiceOver on open in a file menu image. You are currently on an image. To begin interacting with the contents of this image, press Control, Option, Shift, down arrow.
So, as you heard, it has an image of what VoiceOver looks like when it's turned on, and it is labeled with alt text so you can tell what that image is, and it tells you that if you want to interact with it, you can use Shift, Control, Option, down arrow. Generally speaking, you're not really gonna need to interact with images that often because most images don't contain elements that you would need to interact with VoiceOver, but it is useful sometimes if you've got a weird image and you need to do something in it. It works on some websites. So I'm going to swipe right again.
Turn on VoiceOver. Checked. Checkbox.
We've got the checkbox to turn on VoiceOver, and it is checked because obviously VoiceOver is running. We'll keep swiping.
Back button. Continue button.
I'm going to hit continue.
Button. To click vision, zoom.
Now we've got our zoom settings. I don't need this because I am too blind to benefit from that, but I will swipe through it so you can hear the options.
Zoom is a powerful built-in magnifier that lets you enlarge your screen. Hold down the control key, control, and swipe up on your trackpad or mouse to zoom. You are zoom enlarging a window image. Turn on zoom, uncheck, checkbox, back button, continue button.
So as you heard, it's a very similar screen to the voiceover settings. It just is about the magnification that's built into Mac OS. This obviously can be super beneficial if you have some residual vision. You might want to check that box by just double tapping it or control option spacing on that checkbox to enable zoom, and then as you heard it say, you can hold down control and swipe up on your trackpad to zoom a window. So I'm going to double tap continue.
Vision. You are currently on a text element.
Alright, it took us to the next screen for the vision accessibility settings. I'm going to swipe.
Hover text. Hover text enlarges text under the pointer in a large text view while the command key, command, is held down. You are hover text enlarging, open in a file menu image. Turn on hover text, uncheck, checkbox, back button, continue button.
So I just swiped through that window, and again, it's a typical accessibility settings window, and you heard it describe hover text. If this is something that you can benefit from, you could check that box. I'm going to VO space on the continue button.
Vision. You are currently on a text element.
We're on the next screen. We'll go through these settings.
Speak selection. Selected text will be spoken when the option, and escape keys are pressed. You can customize the keys later in system preferences. Highlight a text in the speak selection controller image. Turn on speak selection, uncheck, checkbox, back button, continue button.
So this is for speak selection. This is primarily used for people who have enough vision to sort of kind of see the screen and just need help reading lengthy things. So if you don't want to use voiceover, but you do need long passages read aloud, you could enable speak selection, and then you can highlight text and press, I believe it was option escape, and it will read it aloud. I'm not going to turn this on because this is not a good thing to have turned on in conjunction with voiceover in my experience, but if you are not a voiceover user and you want this, you can turn it on. So I'm going to hit continue again,
Vision.
and we'll swipe through this window.
Pointer size. Pointer size lets you enlarge your cursor so you can better see and track it. Selected. Smallest pointer button. Small pointer button. Big pointer button. Biggest pointer button. Back button.
As you heard, there are several different pointer sizes, so if you can sometimes see enough to use the mouse, but you need it to be a little bigger, you can select a larger pointer size. I actually am going to go ahead and select the biggest pointer size because sometimes my semi-sighted friends do things on the computer that I use, and it helps them out if the larger pointer size is selected. So we'll VO space on that. You can also double tap the trackpad. And I'm just going to VO arrow left and then right again to make sure that selected it.
Biggest pointer button.
Okay, so it doesn't actually tell you that the biggest pointer is now selected for some reason, but the smallest one is no longer selected. So I'm assuming that it did in fact select it. That is an accessibility error on Apple's part, but it's okay. I'm assuming that it did the thing, and if it didn't, we'll fix it later in settings if one of my semi-sighted friends needs to use the pointer. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit function, control option, right arrow to jump to the bottom and hit the continue button.
Continue button. Vision.
So we're on the next screen of the vision settings. We'll go through these.
Reduce transparency. Improve contrast by reducing transparency and blurs on some backgrounds to increase legibility. Selected. Standard button. Reduce transparency button. Back button. Continue button.
That has to do with the transparency and contrast. If that will help you see the screen better, you can turn that on or change it. I don't fully understand what that is, and none of my semi-sighted people have ever asked me to turn this on, so I'm going to leave it alone for now and hit continue.
Vision.
We'll swipe right.
Increase contrast. Increase color contrast between app colors to increase legibility. Selected. Standard but increase contrast but back button. Continue button.
That has to do with app contrast colors. Again, I'm going to leave that alone until it needs to be turned on.
Vision.
We'll go through the next screen.
Appearance. Light or dark appearance changes the color of screen content. Selected. Light but dark button. Auto but back button. Continue button.
So here's where you can change it from light to dark or have it automatically adapt. Again, I'm going to leave that alone because it doesn't affect me. So we're going to hit continue.
Vision.
And we have more.
Reduce motion. If you are affected by the movement of screen elements, you can enable reduce motion to decrease movement in apps or areas such as spaces, notification center, and the dock. Play standard animation button. Selected. Standard button. Play reduce motion animation button. Reduce motion button. Back button. Continue button.
So this has to do with the animations that you see around Mac OS. If the motion bothers you, you can turn that off or reduce it. And the play animation button that you heard will let you see an example of the different types of animations, so you can play those if you think that would benefit you or you want to see the difference. I can't see the animations, period, so we're going to hit continue.
Back button.
And I believe that just dropped us at the bottom of the window for some reason on the back button, so I'm going to hit function, control, option, left arrow to make sure we're at the top.
Accessibility.
Okay, so it did drop us at the bottom. It will do that sometimes. So a good rule of thumb, if you're not sure where you are on the screen with VoiceOver, is to hit function, control, option, left arrow to jump to the top and go from there to make sure that you are oriented on the screen. So I'm going to hit control, option, right arrow to keep going through the screen.
Select another category to further customize your Mac or set up later in system preferences.
Okay, so we got through all of the vision accessibility settings. Now we're back on the accessibility categories screen where we can select another category and customize different accessibility settings. I don't really need any other accessibility settings, but I will go through these categories so you can hear what all is available if you do need some other accessibility customizations. Most of the accessibility settings for different categories are going to be just like the screens we just went through for the vision settings. So I'm going to swipe through these.
Vision, completed button, motor button, hearing button, cognitive button, back button, continue button.
So as you heard, there are different categories, and each one of those categories has tons of settings that you can customize, just like the vision settings. And it told us that the vision category was completed, so that means we went through all of the screens in that category. So like I said, I don't need any other accessibility settings, so I'm going to hit continue. VoiceOver didn't give any feedback, but I believe it did go to the next step, so I'm going to hit function, control, option, left arrow.
Select your Wi-Fi network.
Alright, so this is asking me to select my Wi-Fi network. This might get tricky because I have a really weird Wi-Fi network. I'm in an apartment and they use Boingo to provide Wi-Fi, and it's not the most accessible thing in the world, and it is a nightmare to set up. Your Wi-Fi setup probably will not be as terrible as this is about to be. You may not hear all of it because it is going to give the name of where I live, and y'all don't need to know that. But I will give you a general overview of the Wi-Fi setup process. So I'm going to swipe right.
Table. No selection.
So we have a table. This table contains the list of Wi-Fi networks that are available to join. And again, this is a table, so we have to interact with it to go through the list of items in the table. To do that, I'm going to hit Shift, Control, Option, down arrow. You could also swipe right with 2 fingers on the trackpad.
In table. Row 5 of 15. Direct-32-HP-Jet 3700 series. Lock image. Wi-Fi icon with full strength image selected. Direct-32-HP-Jet 3700 series.
As you heard, we're on row 5 of the table. For some reason, it did not place us at the top, and that is someone's printer in this complex. So we do not want to join that. I'm going to hit Function, Control, Option, left arrow to jump to the top of this.
Alex. Row 1 of 16.
So that's the name of a Wi-Fi network. It is not my Wi-Fi network, and you heard it say row 1 of 15, so it gives you the row number that you are in the table to let you know where you are in relation to other things. I'm going to use Control Option down arrow to go through this list of Wi-Fi networks and find mine.
Table. Row 6 of 17.
Okay, so I found mine. For some reason, VoiceOver does not want to stay interacted with this table. So just VO left arrow back to the table and re-interact with it. I'm not sure why it does that. Most tables don't do that. The setup process is just really weird. I did just find my Wi-Fi network, but you guys aren't going to hear VoiceOver say the name because it is the name of my apartment complex, and that doesn't need to be on the internet. But I'm going to VO space on it, and then it should ask for my login credentials. That said my apartment complex name, so I'm going to cut that out so you won't hear VoiceOver say it, but I'm going to interact with this web content. It basically opened a web page for me to sign in to my resident portal, so we'll interact.
In welcomes, let's connect to Wi-Fi. I live here. Edit text email field, blank.
Basically, this screen just opened a web page, so there's some web content that you have to interact with. Anytime there's web content, you will also have to interact with it like a table with Shift Control Option down arrow or a 2-finger swipe right on the trackpad, and then you can just move through that web content like you would anything else with VO right arrow or swiping on your trackpad. I'm going to interact with this and sign into my resident portal. You guys won't hear that process because you don't need to have my personal email address, and then we will hit continue and move on with the setup process.
Done button.
Okay, so I believe I've successfully signed in to my resident portal and connected this MacBook, so I'm going to hit the done button now, and hopefully it will take us to the next step and not tell me I've done something wrong.
Setup assistant. Window. Try again button.
And I did something wrong.
Some services require an internet connection. To choose a different configuration, click try again. To set up these services later, click continue.
Alright, so we're going to try again.
Try again button. Table. Row 6 of 19. Username. Password secure. Leaving scroller back button. Continue button. Authenticating to network. Help but show certificate. Cancel. Continue. Continue. Default button.
Okay, so I redid that process twice and finally got it to authenticate my network and allow me to trust the network certificate. Your Wi-Fi connection process probably will not be that awful, but we are finally at the next screen, and this is the migration assistant. So if you've got a backup of a previous MacBook, you can import that backup here. It's a pretty flawless process. I've done it in the past. I do not have a backup because I'm setting this up as a new computer for Challenge Solutions with the Challenge Solutions login info. But if you did, you could select an option here. I will go through these so you can hear all of your options.
If you have information on another Mac or Windows PC, you can transfer it to this Mac. You can also transfer information from a Time Machine backup or another startup disk. How do you want to transfer your information? From a Mac, Time Machine backup or startup disk. Selected radio button. From a Windows PC, radio button. Not now button.
Okay, so you heard that you can restore information from a previous MacBook or from a Time Machine backup, which is how you make a backup of your MacBook. That's sort of the built-in macOS backup feature, or from a Windows PC. So if you have a Time Machine backup on an external hard drive, I recommend you always keep one of those, or if you've got information on a Windows PC that you want to save to your new Mac, you can do that. Again, we're not going to do that, so I'm going to click Not Now.
Set up later. Set up later button.
Okay, so it dropped us on the bottom of the next screen. I'm going to go to the top with function VO left arrow.
Sign in with your Apple ID.
This is the Apple ID sign-in screen. This process might also be a little tricky for me because I don't have an Apple ID for the Challenge Solutions email address, and that's what we're going to use to sign into this Mac. So I'll have to create a new one. If you've got an existing Apple ID, it's a pretty seamless process to sign in with. Just enter your credentials. But I'm going to take you through the creation process to see what that's like. We'll swipe right.
Sign in to use iCloud, the App Store, and other Apple services. Apple ID. Email edit text, blank. Create new Apple ID, button.
Again, if you've got an existing Apple ID, enter your email in that email field. I'm going to click Create New Apple ID and make one for Challenge Solutions.
Empty scroll area.
It dropped us in a scroll area. I'm going to go to the top with function VO left arrow.
Scroll area, 2 items.
And this is a scroll area, so you have to interact with Shift VO down arrow like you would for a table.
In scroll area. 2 items. Your birthday is used to determine which services to set up on this Mac.
So it wants a birthday. I'm going to go ahead and give it mine.
Web application. You are currently in a web.
This is a web application, so we'll have to interact.
Birthday. Month. Pop-up button.
Alright, so we have pop-up buttons for the birthday entry. To use a pop-up button, you just VO space on the pop-up button or double tap on the trackpad, and then VO up and down arrow through the list and VO space to select. So we'll do that.
Menu, 13 items. January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November.
So that was me VO down arrowing through the list. My birthday is in November, so we'll VO space on that.
November, pop.
Now we'll go to the next item with VO right arrow.
Day, pop-up button.
Here's the day, so we'll go through this pop-up button and select it.
Menu, 32, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 18. 18, year, pop-up button.
Now we'll do the year.
Menu, 2019, 2018, 2005, 1998. 1999. 1999. Pop.
We'll go to the right again.
End of web application. Back button. Continue button.
And hit continue. So we're at the bottom of the next screen again, so we'll go to the top.
New Apple ID. Get started with your name, email address, and password. Web application.
We have another web application, so we'll interact.
Name. You are first required. Edit text.
Okay, so I'm going to attempt to enter challenge solutions in the name field. We will see if it lets me or if it tells me that's not a real name.
C-A-L-L-E-N-G-E. Challenge. Email address. Last. Required. Edit text. S-O-L-U-T-I-O-N-S. Solutions. Name at example.com. Required. Edit text. Email.
So now we have the email field. I'm going to type in the challenge solutions email.
T-F-A-G-E-O-L-O-S. Miss F-I-S-O-M. G. This will be your new Apple ID. Get a free iCloud email address. Button. Password. Required. Secure edit text.
And we'll make a password. You will not hear VoiceOver say letters for the password. It's just going to make clicks. That's standard for every password entry field so that others around you don't hear your password being entered.
Verify. Required. Secure edit text. Your password must be at least 8 characters, include a number, an uppercase letter, and a lowercase letter. Apple News and Announcements. Checked. Checkbox. Unchecked. Apple News and Announcement. Stay up to date with Apple News. Software. End of web application. Cancel button. Continue button.
So I just went through the rest of that window. It told you what kind of characters you have to include in your password. I used all those and I unchecked the box to get Apple News and Announcements because we don't want that coming to our email address. I'm going to hit the continue button. And again, we didn't get feedback for the screen, so we'll go to the top.
New Apple ID. Enter a phone number that can be used to verify your identity with a text message or phone call. Web application.
We'll interact with the web application.
Phone country options. +1, United States.
That is the country code, so we'll go to the right.
Phone number. Required. Edit text.
I'm just going to go ahead and give it my phone number for convenience. You guys are not going to hear VoiceOver speak my phone number because you do not need my phone number. Okay, so that was actually a pretty weird entry process for the phone number field, so I'm going to go ahead and mention it. It didn't give me character feedback as I was typing, and then it did not let me use the left and right arrows to check what I had entered. So you will have to type it in via left and right again to see what you've entered and make sure it's right, and then if you need to fix your phone number, you're going to have to select all, delete it, and then re-enter it correctly and check it again because you will not get character feedback with the arrows, which is very unfortunate. That's an annoying accessibility quirk. But now we are to the next step. I'm going to swipe right.
Verify with.
It wants me to select an option to verify my phone number, so we'll swipe right again.
Text message. Selected. Radio button. Text message. Phone call. Radio button.
It's got text message selected, and that's what I prefer, so I'll go ahead and continue, but if you would rather them call you, then you can select that.
End of web application. Back button. Continue button. 1. Edit text. Web application.
Alright, so we're now in the authentication code entry box, and I did receive the code, so I'm going to go ahead and enter that.
2. Edit 3. Edit 4. Edit 5. Edit 6. Edit text. 1.
Those numbers that VoiceOver said are the numbers of the boxes for the numbers in your authentication code. So there are 6 boxes on the screen. They're each their own box, but you can just type in the code normally and the numbers will go in the right boxes as long as you enter them in the correct order.
macOS software license agreement.
And it automatically moves to the next screen if you enter your code correctly. So we're going to go to the top of this.
macOS software license agreement.
And here is the software license agreement that I'm not going to read because no one reads that. I'm going to function via right arrow to the bottom and hopefully the agree button will be there.
License, warranty, and other important product information are saved on your system and can be found in About This Mac. The license is...
That did not take me to the agree button. We'll go right again.
License, warranty.
Okay, so it's not at the bottom. We'll go to the top.
A.
And via right arrow.
macOS software license agreement. By clicking agree, you are going to be bound by these Apple and third-party terms. More, clickable. B. iCloud term. It is in more. C. Apple, please rent more. D. Warranty.
Huh, can I uninteract?
Web application.
Yes, that was a web application. So we'll via right arrow.
Back button. Agree button.
And click agree without reading that.
Set up assistant alert image. I have read and agreed to the macOS software license agreement, iCloud, and Apple Media Services terms and conditions. Disagree button. Agree, default button.
Okay, this screen is asking me to agree that I have read the thing that I did not read, and of course I'm going to click agree because I can't use macOS if I don't agree to it. You should probably read the license agreement because it's there for a reason and you should know what you are agreeing to, but also you can't use macOS if you don't agree to it, so there's that. But legally I should probably tell you to read the stuff, so I'm going to click agree.
Agree, dimmed button.
And I believe it went to the next screen. We're going to jump to the top.
Web application.
We have a web application, so we'll interact.
Create indeterminate progress indicator. Create a computer account. Fill out the following information to create your computer account.
This is asking me to create the login account for this computer specifically that is not the same as the Apple ID login. So we'll go to the right.
Scroll area of 13 items.
We have a scroll area, so we'll interact.
Fill out the following information to create your computer account. Full name. Challenge solutions. Content selected. Full name. Edit text.
So it auto-filled the name based on the Apple ID that I entered. We'll go to the right again.
Account name. Challenge solutions. Content selected.
And it has the account name, so you can have different accounts on a Mac. Like if you need an administrator account and then a general user account, you can have those. I'm going to go ahead and leave that account name the same.
Image. You are currently on an image.
There's a nice unlabeled image.
This will be the name of your home folder.
So this is going to be the name of the home folder. That's kind of like the user folder that encapsulates all of the important techie stuff on a Mac. That's fine. It can be named that. We'll go to the right.
Password. Password, new password. Secure edit text.
And we have to enter a new password specifically for the computer. So I'm going to enter a password and you're just going to hear clicks.
Verify password, verify. Secure edit text. Hint, password hint optional. Edit text.
So you can enter a hint to remind you what your password is if you forget it. I'm not going to do that right now, so we're just going to go to the right.
Allow my Apple ID to reset this password. Checked checkbox.
You can allow your Apple ID to reset this password. I'm going to leave that checked.
Back button. Continue button.
And we'll hit continue.
Busy creating account. iCloud. Setting up account. Back. Dimmed but continue. Dimmed button.
And it won't let us continue until it's done with the iCloud setup process. So it may take a few minutes to get everything ready.
Use iCloud keychain. Selected radio button. 1 of 2.
Alright, this step is asking if we want to use iCloud keychain. iCloud keychain is what saves all of your passwords and login info and such in iCloud. And yes, we do want that on. It's super useful. So it's already got it selected. I'm going to swipe right.
Set up later radio button. About iCloud keychain and privacy button. Back. Dimmed button. Continue button.
We'll hit continue.
Find my.
This is for Find My, and you want to enable that. That will allow you to track the location of your Mac if it gets stolen, so we'll swipe right.
Find My allows you to locate this Mac on the map, send it messages, and remotely lock or erase it. Find My will use the Apple ID, v::s@gmail.com. Find My also protects your Mac with activation lock, which prevents anyone else from using your Mac if it's ever lost or stolen. This Mac will be associated with your Apple ID, and data such as photos, contacts, and documents will be stored in iCloud so you can access them on other devices. See how your data is managed button. Back. Dimmed button. Continue button.
Alright, so that was just some information about Find My, and you could click to see how your data is managed if you want that. I'm going to hit continue because we do want Find My to be enabled.
Enable location services.
And of course, to use Find My, you have to enable location services. That's what gives macOS permission to track your location with the Mac. So we'll go to the right.
Location services allows apps like Maps and services like Spotlight suggestions to gather and use data including your approximate location. Enable location services on this Mac. Unchecked checkbox.
So again, you have to enable location services to use Find My. So we're going to go ahead and check this. You can determine on an app by app basis which apps have access to location services. And I do recommend going through those settings because some apps do not need to know where you live.
Checked. Enable location services on this Mac. Checkbox. About location services. Button. Back. Dim. Continue. Button.
And we'll hit continue.
Analytics. Help Apple and app developers improve their products and services automatically.
This is asking if you want to share app analytics and crash reports and such with Apple and other app developers. Personally, I turned this off just because I try to be mindful of security and things like that and don't really want to be sharing analytics with random app developers. I don't mind sharing crash reports, but most of the time if something crashes, it will pop up and say, hey, do you want to share this crash report with such and such developer? And I usually do click yes, but I typically don't allow it to automatically send it. This is up to you though. If you don't mind it being on, then you can leave the boxes checked, but I'm going to uncheck them.
Share Mac Analytics with Apple. Unchecked checkbox. Help Apple improve its products and services by automatically sending diagnostics and usage data. Diagnostic data may include location information. Share crash and usage data with app developers. Checked checkbox. Unchecked. Help app developers improve their apps by allowing Apple to share crash and usage data with them. About analytics and privacy. Button. Back button. Continue button.
We'll hit continue.
Screen time.
This is the screen time setup. We'll swipe right.
Get insights about your screen time and set limits for what you want to manage. Duration. Image. Weekly reports. View daily and weekly charts and get insights about your screen time. Clock, image, downtime and app limits. Schedule time away from the screen and set daily time limits for apps or app categories. Stop, image. Content and privacy restrictions. Restrict settings for contacts, explicit content, purchases and downloads, and privacy. Image. Screen time passcode. Manage screen time for children from your Mac or iOS device, or use a screen time passcode on your child's device. Set up later button. We
don't need any of those screen time settings enabled, so I'm going to click set up later, but if you did want to enable them, you would just select continue and it would take you through the setup process. If you are a parent and you're going to allow your child to use your computer or something like that, this is a super useful, very accessible built-in tool for managing that kind of content.
iCloud Analytics.
All right, here's the analytics for iCloud. We'll swipe through this.
Help Apple improve its products and services, including Siri and other intelligent features, by allowing analytics of usage and data from your iCloud account.
Again, I turn this off just because of security and privacy reasons, but if you don't mind sharing this, then you can leave the boxes checked.
Share iCloud Analytics with Apple. Unchecked checkbox. All analysis is performed using privacy-preserving techniques such as differential privacy and is not associated with you or your account. About iCloud Analytics and privacy. Button. Back button. Continue button. Siri.
Okay, here's the Siri settings.
Siri helps you get things done just by asking. Siri can also make suggestions before you ask in apps, search, and keyboards. Enable Ask Siri. Checked checkbox.
We'll leave that checked.
Apple stores transcripts of your interactions with Siri and may review a subset of these transcripts. Siri may also send information like your voice input, Hey Siri setup, contacts, and location to Apple to process your request. Data is not associated with your Apple ID. About Ask Siri, dictation and privacy, button. Back button. Continue button. Set up, Hey Siri. This helps Siri recognize your voice when you say, Hey Siri. Set up, Hey Siri, later button.
This is asking you to set up Hey Siri, so that's where you can say Hey Siri and it'll be voice activated. I'm not going to do that right now. I don't use Siri enough to have that set up, and I won't be the only one using this computer, so I'm going to hit set up later.
Improve Siri and dictation.
This is asking to send analytics to improve Siri and dictation. Again, I'm going to turn that off, but you can leave it on if you want.
Help Apple improve Siri and dictation by allowing Apple to store audio of your Siri and dictation interactions from this Mac. Apple may review a sample of stored audio. You can change this later in system preferences. This data is not associated with your Apple ID and will only be stored for a limited period. Share audio recordings, radio button, not now, radio button.
So I'm going to hit not now.
Selected, not now, radio button. About improve Siri and dictation and privacy, button, back button, continue button.
And we'll click continue.
Filevault disk encryption.
This is asking to set up Filevault disk encryption. If you really want to be secure and have your hard drive encrypted and all that, you can set this up. I'm not going to set this up just because it's kind of a hassle and we're not going to have anything on here that's going to need to be super secure. So I'll VO right arrow.
Filevault secures your data by encrypting the contents of your disk and locking your screen with a password. Would you like to use Filevault to encrypt the disk on your Mac? Turn on Filevault disk encryption. Checked checkbox. Unchecked. Turn on Filevault disk encryption. Checkbox.
We'll go to the right.
Allow my iCloud account to unlock my disk. Dimmed unchecked checkbox.
That's dimmed because I turned off Filevault encryption.
Your iCloud account, vitalchallengesolutions@gmail.com, can be used to unlock your disk and reset your password if you forget it. If you do not want to allow your iCloud account to reset your password, you can create a recovery key and store it in a safe place to unlock your disk. Back button. Continue button.
We'll hit continue.
Background light image. MacBook touch bar light image. 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 Touch ID. Use your fingerprint to unlock your Mac and make purchases with Apple Pay. Start by placing your finger or thumb on Touch ID. Set up Touch ID later button.
Here's the Touch ID setup screen. As you heard, there are several unlabeled images on here, but that's okay. I'm going to click Set up Touch ID later just because I don't want to go through the Touch ID process right now, and I won't be the only one using this computer.
In alert dialog, set up Touch ID button. Are you sure you don't want to set up Touch ID now? Touch ID helps to keep your Mac secure.
And it's asking if I'm sure. I am sure, so I'm going to click Next.
Continue, default button. Set up Touch ID later, dimmed button. Busy, progress indicator.
We've got a progress indicator, which means it's loading something.
Finder, desktop.
And we have arrived at the desktop, so that means the setup process is complete. I do recommend that you go through system preferences whenever you set up a new MacBook and make sure all of the settings are customized to your liking. If you guys would like to see a video of me going through system preferences and customizing all the settings the way I typically would, let me know in the comments and I would be happy to make that happen. But for now, we're gonna go ahead and transition back to my face for the outro because this video is long enough. That concludes this demonstration of setting up a new MacBook using VoiceOver. If you have any questions or suggestions for future content, please leave those in the comments below or send us an email via the contact form on challengesolutions.org. Please give this video a thumbs up so the YouTube algorithm continues to know we exist, and subscribe to the Challenge Solutions blog, podcast, and YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching.